Well, on the list here, it's actually...
Well, no, they didn't call.
No, they didn't call. They should have called. They didn't. I'm calling Andrew Williams.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, New Zealand First is calling for a commission inquiry, as our leader, the Right Honourable Winston Peters, has already said in the House this afternoon. We have heard of so much bungling on behalf of so many agencies in this country in the last 9 or 10 months over this .com saga, including right to the top, including the bungling of the Prime Minister, including the incompetent handling by the Prime Minister, that this needs an independent commission of inquiry. Let's go back to the very beginning. The Orewa Senior Community Constable, Jason Homan, visited the .com mansion the day before the raid. He knocked on the front door. He was welcomed in by Mr. .com. He was given a tour around the building, and they discussed Mr. .com's security. He wanted to assist Mr. .com with the security, but what he didn't let on was that he had a covert camera hidden on his body, and the whole time this community constable, who was supposedly there in Mr. .com's interest, was actually filming in preparedness for the raid the next morning. The following morning, at dawn, helicopters start dropping out of the sky, and 80 Special Police Tactics Group police come off these helicopters, 80 of them, and also via cars and other things coming up the roads, and they force entry into the mansion. They drag Mr. .com's 27-week pregnant wife out onto the lawn in the rain at dawn. They terrorise the children in the house. They then find Mr. .com and drag him outside as well, and he's pushed down onto the ground where he sustained some injuries to some of his limbs that were stood on. There were police supposedly in this raid wearing T-shirts, jeans and flak jackets, which is most unusual for the New Zealand police, and speculation that some of those may well have been members of agencies from abroad, including the FBI. There's speculation in that. This is the sort of thing going on in this country within miles, a short relative distance, in the Prime Minister's own electorate of Helensville. In his own electorate, this is all going on while he is the Minister in charge of the GCSB spy organisation for this country. In his own electorate, this sort of thing's going on. And that very same spy organisation didn't even realise that this individual living in the most expensive mansion in the Prime Minister's electorate, worth $30 million, with 50 staff. How many houses in New Zealand have 50 staff? Not many. Maybe the Prime Minister's has quite a few, but he's probably the second in the country with staff. But to be in his own electorate and not now admit to the fact that he knew of .com, that people from .com staff had been to his electorate office, that there had been numerous dialogue with his office about it, and for this Prime Minister to say that he only really knew all about this, the intricacies of the details of this in the last week or so, is balderdash. Absolute balderdash. This is a cover-up. An absolute cover-up. And the fact that the Deputy Prime Minister back on the 16th of August signed a warrant while the Prime Minister was away at his baseball game in the United States, while the Deputy Prime Minister, acting Prime Minister, signed it to provide for a cover-up, to bury all the details, is even more of an indictment on this Prime Minister that this is an absolute whitewash. New Zealanders expect more of any government, and in this particular case, the Prime Minister himself should be standing down, stepping aside and calling for a commission of inquiry. Any other minister who was this incompetent handling his portfolio would have been stood down while there was an inquiry. He should stand by the same measures, stand by the same standards, step aside and let people come in and do a proper job. He should spend less time on the golf course, less time in his holiday house in Hawaii, less time on the global stage getting photographs with everybody he can possibly get his hand on, and spend more time overlooking his own portfolios. Right. New Zealand First calls for a commission inquiry. Let's get on with it.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Speaker, I note